Hey there, kids, over here. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. This is why we write things down. No, I'm
Yeah,
just fine.
I can't do an intro. Hey there, Travis Rex. I'm here with EddieAce.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah. So today we're gonna be reviewing Dune, and just saying that we'll for the first 2 minutes here, we'll just do a spoiler free. Just give our general impressions if we recommend the movie or not, and then after that, we'll get more in depth into the movie, more in depth into the certain parts and why we think the way we think as far as the movie's concerned. So. I'm actually really curious to hear your overall impressions of this, Eddie.
Well, I give it 3 thumbs up. I was born with 3 thumbs, so it's an accurate rating. I'm just kidding. No, the visuals were really good. I enjoyed the characters had enough like the characters had enough depth to them, like some of them that you wouldn't think of, but they didn't overdo it. Like, you know what I mean? Like some of the characters that they have in there weren't so like you're not like, oh, what's this guy's backstory? But you kind of already they're acting kind of just like, oh, you kind of can see where they kind of came from. I feel like,
right.
Which is really good. My biggest gripe with the movie, and again, it may be a different experience in theaters. I'm gonna tell you why I don't think it is, but is the audio. I feel like is kind of whack, and that's just because it's one of those movies where you can't get up to 80 volume, and you're like, okay, I can hear the dialogue because other than that, it's a whisper. And then you turn, and
they
and
were
then
definitely like there's a lot of scenes where they're like whispering or talking very softly. And so we're like, turning up the volume so we can hear them. And then,
even though the normal talk was whispers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They just talking like soft voices a lot of times.
Yeah. And then the music would come on and like, so are we going to do this? I think we should. I'm like, oh my gosh, turn it down, please. I got roommates.
No, there really was like a glaring difference. And I guess just to be clear, we did watch it just on our home system on HBO Max. But I actually would say, not audio aside, I actually would probably go see this in theaters if you had a choice. Because first of all, I'm curious how the audio would be in theaters. Second of all, the visuals were honestly just amazing. Like the graphics and everything were perfect. So I would kind of think it'd be cool to see on the big screen.
I guess you're saying my TV doesn't have good enough graphics to handle the complexity of doing it.
No, your graphics. No, the graphics were good on the TV, and that's what I mean. They were so good that honestly, it'd be just awesome to see on the big screen. You know,
I do think it is a theater watch, but I enjoyed the movie, but I think I enjoyed it more because we could talk during a lot of the parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't get that same experience in theaters. I do think I would watch it in theaters first and then watch it with friends, personally. But I do think it's worth a second watch. I'm excited to see what comes next. Because So that's that.
I definitely think, and I don't know. So I'm coming from the point of view where I read the book. I read the book a super long time ago, so I only really remember the general beats.
Yeah, he read it in 1965 when it came out. Extremely old guy. The first copy.
But that's what I was also going to say is I feel like, and we'll get, I guess, more into this in spoilers, but I felt like there's a lot of parts where, like, if I wasn't there to, like, iron out some of the stuff for you guys, it would be confusing.
That's true. There's a couple things that I'm like, how did he notice that? And like, oh, well, because in the book. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then you realize it's not really something I can understand. I mean, it's something one line of dialogue could have fixed, but it's not that important. You know what I mean?
And that's what I thought. I'm like, okay, I mean, I know which part we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it's not that important. But then you brought it up, the question. I'm like, well, maybe they should have thrown a line in that because people are questioning it, you know?
Yeah. And the thing is, at the same time, though, most people would jump to conclusions, well, because of, because we know this about the character, that could make sense. So you can still jump to your own conclusions that would still kind of make sense. So I do think that some stuff that they glossed over may not have been as important and that's probably why they skipped it because they only have 2 hours and 35-minute runtime, and they're trying to cover as much as they can, which is why I do believe the movie would make a better series, and I would totally watch that series.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit more because it's kind of weird, but that's one of the biggest complaints that I have with the movie, to be honest. But we'll get into that really quickly. I guess let's just finish. So basically, on a scale, you like thumbs down, sideways thumb being you could take it or leave it, and then thumbs up basically saying you recommend watching it. Thumbs down, you don't recommend watching it, and then sideways thumb just like, all right, it doesn't really matter to you. You weren't upset you watched it, but you could have also lived without watching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, if it was me, I'd give it 2 middle fingers. No, it's like that's not the rating system. No, I like it. I give it 2 thumbs up. I would watch it again. I'd watch it with friends.
Yeah.
I'll watch it in the house. Watch it with a mouse on the couch.
I'd give it a thumbs up as well. So that will be a total of 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
See how that works? See how I did that?
Yeah, I see how it works.
That'll be our rating system from now on.
System. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I would recommend it. I think some viewers will go in and some people will be confused, and some people may not even get into the whole story as much as some others, but I still think even besides that, like just with the visuals, and if you like sci-fi, good graphics, and interesting worlds, I think people can go in and enjoy it.
And I also want to add, like, the thing I like about it, it's kind of like, I'm losing my train of thought already. But I was going to say it's one of those things where, with Game of Thrones, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you watched it the first time and you might not have caught all the characters' names and titles exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a second watch, when you watch it the second time, like, oh, I get it now. I know the stuff, you understand it. I do think it is worth a second watch because you will pick up on stuff that you may not have caught before because you're trying to figure everything out. And so I do think that it does have rewatchability, which is why I give it my thumb.
I agree. So, all right. Yep. That'll conclude our spoiler-free section. So anyone who, I guess, doesn't want anything ruined for them, click off now. And let's just get right into spoiler conversation, and I guess more in depth on why we think the way we do on some of these things. And let's just get the big.
Like, oh my god, the ending!
Yeah,
the second it switches over. Okay, spoilers ahead. Oh my god, did you just see the end? Like, what? They didn't have time to click off.
I kind of want to get back to like what I was saying. One of the biggest gripes with my movie is, and that's almost that like. I feel like a lot of people will be turned off of this movie simply because so it's a 2.5-hour movie, and like we were saying, this probably would have been better done as a series. And it's weird saying that's like one of the biggest gripes about the movie is that it wasn't a series. But the thing is that in the movie, there's so many things that they say in passing, like really quick, like 3 words, 1-liners type thing. And if you missed it or you didn't even really comprehend that they said something like that, it's like, I don't know, you miss a lot. And like I said, I think there's a lot of things where it's like, oh, what do they mean by that? We were watching it with 2 of our buddies as well. The 4 of us were watching it, and someone would be like, oh, what's that? What's that? What's that? There's so much like weird names and lore in the world, and they put it all in the movie, which is good, but they don't explain any of it. So I feel like they really needed to maybe consider making this into a series where they had more time to explain the lore and the background of some of the stuff, let some of the plot elements breathe, because they rushed through so much of so much stuff in this movie, to get it all crammed into the 2.5 hours, that I feel like it could turn some people off because it could be confusing.
Yeah, and the thing is, compared to like normal movies where they can get it in a dialogue line, like he's like, "Well, thanks for doing that, Mom. Well, you are my oldest son of 5." Trying to get all the lore in as they do the series.
Right.
They don't have that kind of stuff. Like, it's like, man, it's crazy. Ever since your father left 10 years ago when you were just born. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of dialogue for a basic movie that works. and you can go along with it, but their stuff is a lot more complex that you kind of need to understand a little bit more. I feel like to actually grasp the movie in a better way.
Yeah.
You
And I
know.
feel like there's also some plot elements they changed for the movie, which is fine. You know, there's always going to be some changes from the book to the movie. But I feel like they changed it just so they can, I guess, like cram it into a shorter time frame. Like with the way the Harkonnen invaded, you know what I mean?
I mean,
Like,
I never saw the book, read the books, but yes,
but yeah, I feel
I do
like
understand what you're saying. Though when I watched it, I said it felt like it was a little lacking
no,
in
I
that spot.
honestly I felt like that was a big rush,
Yeah.
because like the Atreides, I guess a quick plot synopsis for anyone who hasn't seen the movie but is still listening to spoilers. Essentially, there's two main warring houses, or two houses who don't like each other. Harkonnen are bad guys, and then Atreides are protagonists. And there's a planet called Dune. It's a desert planet, and there's a valuable resource called spice on the planet. The Emperor is afraid of House Atreides and the power they're getting, like the popularity they're getting essentially. So they take the planet, who was at the time ruled by Harkonnen, House Harkonnen. They take it away from them and give it to Atreides, and basically that ignites war between the Atreides and Harkonnen. So the Harkonnen attack them, and essentially in this movie destroys the protagonist. Now, that's obviously just the dime store review, but like my point is, like in the movie it's like, okay, we got the planet Dune, they landed on the planet Dune. Oh god, Harkonnen invaded, we're done. Like it
Yeah.
happened so fast. Happened
Hmm.
so fast. Like I don't know.
Yeah, which is why it fleshed out in a series. You know what I mean? It would that would be like a mid season episode or a season finale episode,
Yeah, yeah.
and it would have built up a lot of the plot and understanding. Because yes, it did feel rushed, and then once the trader reveals himself, it's one of those things where it's just like, so one guy did all of that, so all you need is just one defector. I feel like
Right.
it's something that would take a little bit more than that, you
Well,
know.
and it's not even as impactful as it is because, like, you know, in a series, you'll get to see these side characters so much more, and
Hmm.
like you'll get to know them
That's
more.
true.
So
That's very
the
true.
betrayal would even have more weight. But in this, you saw
That's
this dude
true.
for like what 2 scenes, 10 seconds worth each scene
Yeah,
before
yeah.
you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that dude betrayed him. Oh
I didn't
no.
see that coming because I didn't have time to know it was coming.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to know that there was something happening.
I didn't
Yeah.
see it coming because I
That's
didn't see that guy at all in the movie before this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. No, that does make a lot of sense.
So yeah, that's another thing. I was like, like I honestly feel like too that the creators missed a big opportunity, especially like HBO. Like they're trying so hard to get that next like Game of Thrones. You know what I mean?
So
And
much they'll do a prequel.
right, exactly. And this honestly could have been it because the first half of this movie is like Game of Thrones sci-fi, like these two houses plotting against each other, the political intrigue, trying to root out the traitors in each other's. It's like that they could have played that up because there's so many Game of Thrones hungry fans out there. I really think they missed a big opportunity with that.
Yeah. And we Game of Thrones fans would eat that up.
I
You know what I
know.
mean?
We're starving.
But yeah. Yeah.
That last meal
Um
Game of Thrones gave us was not satisfying. We are
yeah.
hungry.
Yeah. But yeah, I do agree with that, and I do think that um because it's so complex that a 2.5 hour movie, 2 hour and a half movie would just not do it justice. And so I think what really carried it through was the visuals, was the actors,
Mhm.
um, is I think what carried it through. I
Yeah.
don't really feel like there was a part in the movie at all that was dragging on. I mean, the movie itself was a long movie, but there was not a part where it's like, come on already, because they
Yeah.
had to cram so much. And not saying I like that feeling. I don't like that feeling of come on already, but it does feel like a lot was I wish was fleshed out more. And the thing is, why they didn't do it, not because
Right.
they didn't want to, it's because they couldn't. you know.
Right.
So
Yeah, I feel like the only parts in the movie where I was like starting to like roll my eyes, and I feel like I only did it because they started doing it so much, was the our main character Paul. He has powers, and we'll kind of get into that and the lore behind that in a bit, but it's like he has powers and he can see the future, and he sees this girl. Essentially, she's one of the desert people on the planet Dune, like one of the natives.
the sand people.
Yeah, but and it's like, okay, whatever. He has a vision of her, and then spoilers, he finds her at the very end of the movie. But they start like, I we should have put a counter up, but I swear to God, there's like 5 or 6 times in the movie where he's like envisioning her. You know what I mean? And
hmm
it's like it's all the same scene. It's her just like staring at him in with the sun in the background, and it's just her
Yeah.
standing there giving him like longing looks for like 20 to 30 seconds. And it's like, okay, that's fine when you do it once. We're gonna remember that. But they do that, like, I swear to God, like they do that multiple times throughout the movie. And every time they did it, I'm just like, okay, we get it. He's seeing visions of this chick that we know nothing about. Like, we get it.
Yeah, and the thing is, when they reveal her, I think they want you to be like, "Oh my gosh, she's finally here!" That's what the
Mhm.
person you've been seeing. But at a certain point, is they did use it so much that it's just like, yeah, we know it was coming. Like
Right.
that was what we wish the traitor kind of had, that reveal moment. Like what? And then
Yeah.
like halfway, just cut it in half and then give him that spot.
They gave her more vision time than the trader got screen time on there.
Yeah, and we all and we all knew it was coming, and it wasn't even an exciting moment because they showed her so much
Yeah.
that it wasn't like, oh, and then we're all like, oh well, they're that close, and of course when they run into each other, she's like, I don't trust you, I don't like you, I don't believe who you think you are, and then all it takes is killing one guy. She's like,
Right.
come with
But here's this
us.
knife. Oh, you killed this guy with this knife. I love you now. Like,
Yeah, it was.
it's weird and
That was a
rushed.
weird that was a weird part for me because I'm thinking like, man, just kill one person and man, girls fall for you like that. I'm gonna, I'm gonna remember that from now on.
Oh, knifing dudes is all it takes to get girls' attention.
I know.
Yeah.
No
No,
wonder why there's so many
and what's
serial
that
killers.
actress's name? Who plays her?
Zendaya.
Zendaya. Yeah. And it's nothing against her, because I mean, she only has a couple lines in the movie.
Yeah, biggest payout ever. That's like better than I am
Yeah,
Groot.
she just had to stand around and look at the camera for
Put on some blue
a
contacts.
few minutes.
You
Yeah,
know.
put on some blue contacts, dress up in a costume, stare at the camera for a few minutes. She gets the biggest
Yeah,
payday of her
I
life.
really thought she's gonna have a bigger role in this part of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the only thing that's slightly easier than that is I am Groot. Maybe the same. It may be the same. I don't know. But I feel like that is they're on the same level.
Yeah, and
Um,
like that kind of brings me to another part, is like they should have just had like the vision with her that he had in the beginning of the movie, and then the movie almost should have ended with like him seeing her. Like, because we don't know what his visions with her kind of entail yet, what they
y-
mean,
yeah.
and which is fine. But then, like, after you meet her at the end of the movie, like, there's still maybe like, let's say, 10 minutes of the movie left. And she's just kind of like chit chatting with him about the stuff they're about to do. And it's kind of like, okay, so he met this like mysterioso girl, and it turns out that she's, I don't know, like the payoff was not very good. Let me put it that way. It's just kind of like, okay, now they're just kind of like talking about the knife and this duel he's about to have, and it's like, so I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
there's a lot of build
yeah.
up to this character, and then the character doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll come a lot in the next part, but at the same time, like, you
Right, which
know,
is almost why I think they maybe should have like left. They should have like ended it when he found her or something, because then it would have
yeah,
been a
then
little
that,
bit more exciting. Like, oh, what's about to happen between him and her? But then like
yeah,
nothing happened between him and her, which is
kind of like in
fine.
Star Wars
But
where you
yeah,
see Luke, like the what was it? whatever episode it was, the with Ray. Anyways, and she finds Luke Skywalker out, and then he's standing there and like, what's gonna happen? What?
Yeah.
And then the next movie, he just throws a lightsaber over the thing.
Yeah. Now,
You know what I mean?
now, like, imagine if you like, if the Force Awakens, you know, it kept going where she met Luke and he throws the lightsaber over, and then they're just chit chatting at his home while he's drinking blue milk. And then the movie ends.
Then the movie ends.
And then the movie ends.
Yeah.
That's honestly what it felt like here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Like that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
I felt like they ended the movie at a weird story
Yeah.
beat.
If you're gonna give us suspense, give us suspense. You know, that's funny. Beyond that, like, you know, back to the traitor, I was really upset when they're like, when he revealed his reasons why, like, oh well, it's because they got my wife and I'm trying to end her torture. I'm thinking like, man, like, you got to know, like, that's, and I understand how important your wife and your family is. Like,
Right.
you know, I'm all about families, you know, but
Yeah, you're gonna betray like a whole freaking faction of people to their deaths.
no, yeah, not even that, but like doing that in hopes that they will honor their end of the agreement. They're
Well,
already
right,
sleazy
yeah.
people. You can't reason with sleazy people. They're like, oh yeah, you'll be with your wife again, and then you do it in the afterlife. You know, like,
Yeah,
it's
no,
just one of those
seriously.
things where it's like, wow, oh, I didn't know the bad guy was still gonna do bad things. Like, it just,
Yeah,
it's
no,
one of those
seriously.
things
And these
where
people
it's like
even
they're
have
goners.
these people even have a sleazy reputation, like you said, you know. So it's not even like
Exactly.
it's not like they're known as trustworthy people who are gonna hold up their end of the bargain. You know, they're known as
Yeah.
scumbags, and you think that they're gonna
The guy's like 800 pounds and floats. Like, you can't trust that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
how do you trust that? So it's one of those things where, you know, even if I was in that position where I was the family, you know what I mean? I'd be like, yeah, just let me go, guys, because this guy isn't gonna listen. You know
Well,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
and even if like let's say you had 100% assurance you were gonna get your wife back, you think she's gonna be happy with you that you essentially just handed the planet over to sci-fi Hitler?
Honestly,
You
though,
know?
I feel as
I
if
don't know,
some
dude.
chicks would be like, "You would do that for me?" Like, oh, the world
Yeah,
isn't.
okay,
But then,
that's fair.
well, no, but at the same time, as soon as you do that, then now you're going to be under that guy's thumb, just like everybody else that he's taking
Mhm.
over. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things where it's a lose-lose situation, and, you know, at that point, I kind of just grab the board and toss it over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I
If
think
Haley
that
ever
was
did that, like if I was captured and Haley did that to me, I'd be like, I can't even look at you. I don't know.
yeah,
I can't believe you did this. Just let me go. I don't know. Maybe not.
yeah.
Who knows? I guess. All right, whatever. But yeah, all that aside, he didn't have 100% assurances, so it's like
hmm
he instantly got betrayed by the bad guys, you know. So
Instantly, and you knew
yeah,
it was coming.
the traitor turned over Paul's father to him, who's essentially the head of House Atreides. And literally, like 1 second later, he's like, "So where's my wife?" "Oh, here, knife to the throat." He's dead. It's
Yeah.
like-
You see her
in
yet?
heaven?
You see
Yeah,
her?
yeah,
Yeah. So
So
I
it's like-
thought, yeah, gosh.
yeah.
I'll tell you what, though. One thing I do like about the Baron, if that's who he was, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I forget these characters.
Baron's
'Cause
yeah,
I only,
leader of
I only,
the
I only
bad
saw it
guys'
one
house.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that I like how smart he was. They made him smart. I wish they didn't make
Yeah.
other people dumb to make him smart. But I do think, honestly, that's not necessarily true, because even the doctor was like, "Here you go, take this poison thing, and you can kill him." Right? That was a smart move. And then the other guy's like, "Hey," the guy's whispering, "I'm gonna put on my shield just to see what he got to say." You know, like, I feel like I do think, I guess they made a lot of people smart in this situation. I do appreciate that, because a lot of times they do dumb down people to make the other person seem smart.
No,
And I think,
you're right. Actually,
so I do think in this one, I think the doctor tried to outsmart him, who then outsmarted him, and it was very good strategy, you know, a strategic movement, and I do appreciate that. So that is definitely a plus on the movie, because then he ended up floating up to the ceiling. I'm like, that's pretty smart.
yep. No,
You
no,
know,
I agree. I was no, you're absolutely right. They did a good job, and it's those small attention to details too. Like you said, like he's getting in close to this dude, so he puts on his shield. and the shield didn't do anything for him, but it's a good small attention to detail. Was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, he's not at least so stupid where he's just going in like
Yeah,
willy
or so
nilly, you know?
arrogant. Yeah, or so
Yeah.
arrogant that he's like, "Oh, this guy is nothing. He can't do anything lying there naked." You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yep.
Like he still took precautions. And that is, I think that was a really good write, and that's why that'd be great in a series. But yeah, I think that's really um that's a kudos to them. So
Yeah. Oh, that was good.
also about these still suits, man. Those things, I wear those, man, all
Yeah.
the time. Anytime I sweat or like have to pee or anything like that, just drink up. You know what I mean? Filtration.
I do really like the like some of the lore behind the technology that they do and everything.
Hmm.
Uh God, every time we talk about lore, I come back to like, man, I wish they just took more time to explain some stuff. Like, so there's a part in the movie where they're meeting with the leader of the desert faction, the desert natives, and he
Hmm.
spits on the desk, the leader of the desert nation. And and this all happens, but basically it's like a sign of respect for them because they're giving up, precious body moisture. So when they spit, it's a sign of respect, but they take it wrong, and they do what they do essentially. They're like, no, 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 it's a sign of respect. But it's almost played off as like a joke in the movie.
Uh-huh.
Like it's weird. It's almost played
I
off in the
enjoy.
movie like he was just saying that to like keep things peaceful. Like, oh no, no, that's a sign of respect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's not freak out now. He wasn't showing us disrespect.
Yeah,
Y-
well, see, and that's the thing. I honestly, from someone who didn't read the books or whatever, I enjoyed that part. I thought that was funny. And
Okay.
then I don't know because they were talking dialogue when you were explaining it to us, so I don't even know if they actually did say no. That's because they're giving up moisture. So they did play it off as a joke, but I don't know if they corrected that because I know we were talking. But I did enjoy that thing because I'm like, oh, that's funny. But even then, I still realized later, oh, that is important. Important. That's important. That
Important.
it's important moisture. No, it's just important that that all that moisture is essential to survival out in the desert. Even when she's like, spending 2 hours out here, you'll die if you don't have the
Right.
suits. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I do think that they did a good job at some of those parts, and I do think that I enjoyed that kind of humor because that movie isn't really humorous, and they have some parts that does liven up.
Hmm.
So then it didn't seem so drab the entire time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
but
I
I'm
could
just
get
saying, from
past
someone
that.
who didn't read the books, I'm
No,
saying
no,
I did enjoy
and
that
I'm
part.
glad you said something because I definitely don't want to be this like I have a hard time not being a book snob when I've read a book for a movie and I'm like, oh
Yeah,
god, in the
your book
books they do
schnabba.
this, and it's like, okay, like we all know the books are always way better,
Hmm.
than because they have the time to develop everything correctly. But it just is what it is. I try not to be that book snob. I try to look at things in their own right. So I'm glad I got people like you keeping me in my place when I say stuff
Yeah,
like
you
that.
gotta stay there now.
I
But
One thing
yeah.
I did think though that they should have explained a little bit more is the way laser guns or their ray guns work on shields, because during the invasion when Harkonnen invades Atreides, they start by like carpet bombing a large part of it, of like the fortress or whatever, and then
Hmm.
they like drop all these people onto the ground and the two factions start sword fighting with each other, which is fine, but because we didn't really have like, I don't know, like the average person's gonna look at that and be like, why'd they even drop people on the ground? Why didn't they just carpet bomb the whole place? You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and like with that sort of like background, knowing that like if like a laser or a missile or I don't know, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like if a laser hits an energy shield, it essentially causes like a nuclear detonation.
Yeah, well, here's the question though: how would you, without cheesy dialogue, how would you explain that? Because it's like the way most movies would say that is like, wait, why can't we just shoot them with the lasers or carpet bombs? And I was like, well, because if they have shields, it causes a nuclear detonation. It's like you should know that. soldier. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
Right.
how do you explain that in the movie dialogue?
in the training scene where like in the beginning when Paul was like training with Thanos,
Mm-hmm.
I forget
Josh
the
Brolin.
actor's name. What's it?
Josh
Josh
Brolin.
Brolin, yeah. Josh Brolin is like his kind of like master at arms trainer or whatever. And so he's
Yeah.
like they're fighting with shields and swords, and he's kind of just like training him to use a sword better and stuff. He should have explained, like Paul could have been like, "So why would I ever use a sword if I can just shoot you?" You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And then like he could have explained because it's all like a training sequence anyways. So
That's true. That is true. At the same time, though, I do think that it was, I feel like his character is a little too smart because he does know a lot of things. You can tell he has a lot of knowledge, whether it's because he is, learned through his ability that, or just he's just, really quick to pick up on stuff. But I think
yeah,
that at least I feel like it was good because he wasn't lacking. Like again, when I'm
no,
talking about like
that's true.
smart,
Yeah,
like, and I don't think he was overpowered. Like I think it was really smart strategy too when he had him release it. Had when you were on the plane getting kidnapped, and then
Mhm.
him and his mom are tied up. Him and Lady Jessica, and he was just like, he's like undo her, her mouth strap. I don't know what it was. What was it named? I don't
Yeah,
know. It was covering her
yeah, her
mouth.
gag or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But
her gag. Thank you. I
no,
couldn't think
yeah,
of the
no,
word.
I agree. They
And
they did do him
because
pretty
you're like
well too.
she's better at this than I am, so I can at least have that guy do that one step, and then she can take over the rest. Like I think that was smart, and it makes him a smart character for being like, oh, it's not just me. Like I'm not, I gotta
Yeah,
be able to delegate properly. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
nope,
And
nope, I
knowing that she's
agree.
stronger in this, so
I
I think
did
that was
really like
also,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah,
I completely agree. They did do him very well too. Like he definitely seemed intelligent in the right way.
yeah.
Not overpowered intelligent, like knows everything that's coming, but definitely intelligent enough to make him an interesting character.
Yeah, and it's better than someone who's completely clueless and who's just like, well, what is this? Well, Luke, that's what your father used. It's called a lightsaber. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what is this? Well, this is space, Luke. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
true.
like like they know more,
It's true.
and it's nice that he's in a good range where he knows enough that he doesn't know everything,
That's true.
and that's kudos to that character. So I do enjoy the writing they did a lot, especially with the relationships with a lot of these characters. I enjoy the relationship between all the characters, how they have their own set ways, um, and it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
But
Speaking of like their powers, so there's in this universe there's another faction of people called the Bene Gesserit, and they are a group made up almost entirely of females, and they have the
nuns.
nuns. That's essentially what they're like
Yeah, I know.
almost. So
Yeah.
they're kind of like this weird sisterhood nun type faction, but they all have this power called the voice, and essentially what it is if the users like concentrate and then speak to people, they can essentially control them and make them do stuff like the force essentially, so I don't know if it's that powerful, but essentially someone could say like, take that knife and kill yourself and they'll do it.
Yeah,
You
they
know what I
can.
mean?
The thing is, they're a little bit stronger than the Force because they don't have to wave their hand to do it.
Right.
Just being stupid.
Yeah. But I really liked how they implemented quote unquote the voice power. Uh it sounded really cool the way they did it. They like changed the voice when they did it. And it was like I had like a damn moment when like she was talking to him and he was like, get off of me or whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dang, like, oof. Like I don't know. They used it sparingly and they used it really well. They used it really intelligently. Like there's a scene that we're just talking about where Paul and his mother had to escape. They had the mother gagged because they knew she was one of these I think they call them like truth sayers or something like that. And but they didn't have him gagged because he's a special case because not males don't usually have the power, or usually these Benny Gesserits don't give birth to males. They only give birth to daughters. This is
Yeah,
something else that I wish they explained a little bit more.
well, I really thought that they didn't give him a gag because they ran out of gags. Like, well, let's just gag her. Him, I don't have anything.
I don't know. I
No,
mean, oh, okay. I don't know.
Get home.
The whole
Am
Benny
I?
Gesserit part is another thing that, like I said, like man, they really rushed through it. I didn't understand it, and then like we also found out that like his mom and his dad weren't married, and we were all kind of like, oh, they're not married,
That
and
was a bigger plot twist, shake up scare than
the traitor.
the traitor. Yeah, it was like what?
Yeah, they just snuck it in there halfway through the movie too. Like, I should
Yeah,
have
that
married
was
you. Like, what? You're not married? Okay, I
yeah,
don't know.
that was a
I
huge WTF moment. Like what?
Yeah,
You know.
and this is all stuff. It's like the Benny Gesserit, how they work, and like some people see Paul. So like Paul's a male and he has these powers, and we were all confused. And I don't remember this part from the books. Like, do males are they not usually born from Benny Gesserits? Like,
Well, I
how is he a
thought
male? How are there no male with powers? How is
well
Paul a male with the powers, and why is he seen as like some weird holy messiah figure to everyone?
Well, here's what I picked up from watching the movie and not reading the books or anything.
Uh
I don't read. I can't.
huh.
And so like there was a there was a thing where when she was talking to the mother wasn't I don't know the hierarchy lady
Right.
I don't
The grandmother of
yeah
the.
yeah
I
the
don't know.
grandmother was it
The
she
leader of
was
the Benny Gesserit faction, some old
thank
lady.
you. So they were talking to her,
Hmm.
and or when Lady just got her walking, and they were going to the spaceship, and she was just like, "Look," she's like, "You were arrogant in having a boy. I told you to have a girl." Like it sounded like maybe they got a choice more so. Like
And
I
as
mean, I don't know if it's like, oh, we'll have a boy, you got to kill him, but I feel like it sounds as if they may have a choice in terms of like that being one of their abilities. You know what I'm saying? And she was Lady just goes arrogant enough to have a boy because she's just like, oh, I think I can give birth to the chosen one. I got this. I think that's what it sounded like to me through the dialogue. It sounded like more so they may have had a choice. I could be wrong, but I don't
yeah,
know. Unless
no,
it's less like
it's
you had a boy and
possible,
then we
but
kill it and you got
that's
to try again.
it's possible. And I do remember this. We are kind of talking about this, and I mean that's what we're speculating. But are we right? We
Well, I
don't
mean,
really know.
I don't know, but I feel like with enough of that dialogue, it raises raises the question as opposed to like, as opposed to with like they didn't say anything about it at all. Like I feel like it's one of those things where like I'm not upset about it because I'm like they kind of did make it sound like it was this, even if they didn't go too into detail,
Yeah.
as opposed to just like you had a boy and you thought you could have a boy. I'm thinking like, and because originally I said it wasn't her choice, right?
Right.
But then the way they started talking, it made it seem like oh she was arrogant enough to have a boy, meaning that it may have been a choice.
And it's possible. I do
That's what
just
I
think
picked
this is
up.
something I wish they just went a little bit more into detail because, like
Yeah.
I'd say one thing that's really confused too is so the desert faction, the Fremen, they see Paul as some sort of like messiah figure, like I was saying, because of this, and there's some sort of like prophecy and chosen one type thing. But what is the prophecy in the like? I don't know. They don't explain that either. It's kind of confusing. I'm like, what? I don't know.
Here at the same time though, I would be very upset if they go through an entire prophecy at the very beginning because that feels like there's no open like I feel like there's no suspense, right?
And I understand that.
Because they're like, oh well, this is all supposed to work out for him because he's the chosen one anyways, and the chosen one's prophecy is supposed to be this, and it's
Mhm.
supposed to go like this, so this is all supposed to happen. It's kind of like in the beginning of a show. There's a show I just watched. Hopefully, no spoilers, but there's a show called Only Murders in the Building, and that's it's a detective show, whatever
Uh-huh.
like that. It's a murder mystery. Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez. In the very
Huh.
first scene of that show, they show something and then they say 3 months earlier or however much earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which means that
I don't like
until they
that.
reach that point to that where they were just at, everything in the movie, they're fine because they're in
Yep.
that scene, which
Yep.
then
That's
ruins the
true.
entire show.
I
You
do
know,
agree with that.
and I feel like if they explain everything in that very first thing, there's no. Well, I don't even care to see the rest of the parts of the movies when they have part two, part three, or however many, because we already know it's all going to work out for him. Which is why these vision things are really cool to see, but I feel like they kind of confused us when they had Janus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get killed because we're like, wait, didn't he teach him all this stuff when he was flying the dragonfly in the wind tunnel and then the
Right.
windstorm, sandstorm? You know, like I feel like that just made it seem like okay, so there's not exactly it, and then we know it has to do with space and time. Like what's going on here? And I feel like there's enough confusion to keep it interesting. And I feel like they will hopefully answer that in the future.
That's true. I don't really have any uh complaints about how they did his visions, minus the fact that they kept showing Zendaya so much.
yeah.
But like my point is though is that like they play it off so nonchalantly because like almost right when they land on Dune, these people are like referring to him by this like Messiah's name. I forget what the name is, like Al Shaid or something, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like playing it off so nonchalantly. Like, what is this supposed to mean to us? You know what I mean?
And that's the thing is, if like we were talking about, if it was a series, that'd be something that would be like, oh, they throw it in there. But then when you watch it watch it again after watching all 5 seasons of this show and watch it from the beginning again, you'd be like, oh, they were talking about that, which happens in season 4.
Right, exactly.
So
but that's the thing is the characters don't even seem confused about it. They're like, oh, yep, I'm the Messiah. So it's not even like they're calling him that, and it's like a mystery on why, and it's not even being carried as a mystery to why they think he's this chosen one. He's just like, yep, I'm the chosen one.
Is it?
But
wasn't
why
it
are you the chosen one? And
wasn't
what
it
does
the
that
Benny?
mean?
But didn't the Benny Gesserit kind of put that in their minds already? Like,
yeah, but I mean that's all just part of the confusion. Like, why? Why are they? What is going on? And I mean, like, what does this mean to the Fremen? Even if this is all a lie, propaganda by the Benny Gesserit, what does he mean to them? Who is he to them? It doesn't explain that, but the characters don't act like they don't know what he means to them. They're like, yeah, we know what he means to them, but they just never. It's like, what does he mean to them? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like there's some of them kind of worship him. They think he's some crazy weird figure, but I don't know. And I'm sure they'll explain it later, but just the way it's played off in the movie is very strange. It's kind of like where they chose to end the movie. It was just a very strange choice to do it that way, and I don't think it necessarily hit the mark.
Yeah, and I was also going to mention, I really liked Oscar Isaac in this movie.
I did too.
Leto, Atreides.
Mhm.
I think that he was a very likable character, and I think that what was really good about him is that I feel like they kind of showed, like, I know, like in the beginning of the movies, it's like, yeah, I didn't want this either, son. I wanted to be a pilot, and I'm like, hey, and in a galaxy far, far away you are, man. It's all good,
right?
But like,
yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, but at the same time, like it was cool when he was flying in one of those dragonfly copter things. I forget what they're called, but when he was flying in those, and it made it seem like he was in control and command, and he sounded like he knew what he was doing. And I'm thinking like it could be because of that helicopter train, or because he wanted to be a pilot, so he probably knew how it worked. I feel like that had something to do with
it had a payoff.
His knowledge, and I do think it had a payoff with that little bit of dialogue, which gave enough backstory in the beginning to make him more believable when he just like comes in. I know what I'm doing. I'm in charge. Like, you know how a new manager.
Yep.
And then they think they know everything, but they know nothing.
Yep.
Like in a store in real life. But I feel like in this sense, it made it so I was like, oh, okay, he does know what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He has his priorities the way he wants them, and it helped because he mentioned his background in one line,
right?
About it. So I do think that, and they did it very cleverly. So
yep. No, I honestly, I 100% agree with you. I really liked. First of all, I don't think there's anyone who was acting poorly in this movie. One of our buddies that we were watching the movie with said that like his friend said that Jason Momoa was like the only person there, but I honestly didn't think he did bad in this. I don't think he was as like, I mean, he's more of a side character, so he didn't get as much screen time as some other characters, but I didn't think he was like bad or anything like that.
No, I think every time I saw his character, it was a breath of fresh air because he was the guy who was more charismatic. He had the jokes, but he still was a because every time he was on screen, he said a joke, pretty much except for like,
That's true.
And I do think that's probably maybe why his friend was like, if there, because his friend said if there was anybody who was kind of lacking, it was him. If
Right.
there was anybody, and I think that it's probably because maybe he changed the tone of a lot of the scenes.
Yeah.
Is why he thinks that. But I enjoyed that change of tone because once he's on screen, you feel a little bit safer when he's around because you know how skilled he is, how
Yeah.
much he cares for Paul and his duty. And I
And
think
his
that
knowledge of the world, the planet, and the people, and
exactly.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that he was a really a good character to have. I liked all the cast in this.
I did too,
Um,
and yeah, and that kind of leads me back to what I was saying. Is just like I thought the acting in this was phenomenal, especially from our leads. Like I thought, the actors and actresses who played like House Atreides, Jessica, uh, Duke Leto, Paul. Like I thought they were all just phenomenal. So
mhm.
they all did great.
I I think honestly, I'm gonna change my text tone to Jamis's scream. You know, what I mean? Ah,
Oh
ah. That
yeah.
was best part of the entire movie was the last couple minutes.
Yeah, so one of the last parts of the movie is Paul has to do like a one-on-one dual knife fight.
The Amtal, yeah.
Yeah, with this guy Janice or Jamis from the Fremen faction. He's like, careful, Jamis is a great fighter. And then when they're fighting him, he's just like, it's
Yeah, he's
just
just
like,
making
oh,
all
dude.
this noise and then getting his butt kicked while making all this noise.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Turns out he
what?
wasn't a great fighter. He just like acted crazy in all his fights and scared the people into
Yeah.
submission. Like, okay, man, whoa, okay, you win. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not fighting that guy. He's crazy. But then it turns out he just like even when I was watching his fighting moves, I'm like, I think I can take this guy. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I wasn't. It was very embarrassing, and
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
it was yeah. And that's the thing is, it's like man, if this guy's your strongest fighter, you are screwed. You know.
Yeah.
It was, and then I loved it too when the guy was like, he's like, give me back the pistol. You have your own, mullah pistol or whatever like that. Once you've earned it, and I'm like, no, I took this pistol from you guys.
Mm,
You can have this pistol once you've earned it. I'll give it to you when I think you deserve it. You know what I
right.
mean? It's
Yeah.
one of those things where
The
like I
cockiness of
remember,
the Fremen faction, it's kind of like, all right, it's just kind of like, okay, calm down. I'll hang on to this.
well, it's
I stole
nuts.
this and killed your man fair and square. You know.
It's like when I was playing, like I remember I was a kid and I was playing chess, and I was really good at chess in the day. I'm probably terrible now. It's something you got to practice. Anyways,
Yeah.
my older cousin, maybe he was about 10 years older than me,
Mhm.
was like, and I want to say I'm like 10, 12. He's in his 20s. Anyways, he was like, hey, we played chess. I beat him 5 times in a row. He didn't beat me once. And then
Nice.
he's trying to tell me through these times, it's like, oh, well, like trying to tell me moves I should have made. I'm like, you're the one who's losing. You know what I mean? And you can tell he was
Maybe
getting
tell
upset because
yourself these moves. Maybe give
yeah, like
yourself this advice.
exactly. And I'm like, if it's your advice I'm following, I think I'm gonna end up losing. You know what I mean? So I'm
Right.
thinking, I remember it vividly too. I'm just like, man, like this guy is really something. Like, how are you give me advice when you're the one who keeps losing?
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's just like, get this guy out of here, man. And I feel like it's the same thing with this guy. It's just like, oh yeah, you'll have your own pistol when you've earned it. It's like, bro, I beat you guys. I took out like 3 of your people.
Yeah.
You know.
That was
And
actually one oh, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, and my mom beat you, bro, and she pregnant.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my god, you're right. Yeah. You just got your ass whooped by a pregnant lady. You're
Yeah,
over here talking shit. Yeah.
like it's nuts.
Yeah, you
So,
haven't earned this pistol. Bro, it doesn't matter if I haven't earned it. You definitely don't deserve this. Why
yeah,
don't you give this to someone who's not gonna lose it in a fight to a pregnant lady?
yeah, it was nuts. So
Yeah.
that's my opinion on that matter. But that's
No, I agree. It was just kind of like, okay, whatever. I kind of a little bit on that note. One thing that I just have like, this is just a personal gripe for me in movies in general. Even though I know
okay.
like these action movies need to be flashy, but
Yeah,
like I don't know and I don't remember in the books. It doesn't necessarily matter. I think in this movie they should have made the Fremen look a lot weaker as warriors. Like, so my
I think
issue
they
then,
did.
well, in that last part, but like my issue in general is like, okay, so the Sardaukar, these elite units with the Emperor, they're supposed to be like these big badasses, you know what I mean? Which is
Mhm.
fine. They come in, they take out a lot of the people in the initial invasion, but then like there's this part kind of in the middle of the movie, a little bit past the middle, once Paul and his mother are in the desert and they're kind of like trying to track him down,
Mhm.
they get ambushed by Fremen a lot. The Fremen just kind of like wipe the floor with the Sardaukar a lot. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. I think it really devalued it because then when like Jason Momoa's character went and took out 20, like by that time the Sardaukar had been taken out so much already that it was just kind of like meaningless. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, he's going out with the fight, I guess. But it's
Mhm.
like that moment would have been more badass if the Sardaukar were kind of like presented as a little more unstoppable up until that point, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
then they had these like Fremen kind of throughout the middle of this movie, like, oh, they pop up out of the sand and kill these guys super easily, you know? And it's just kind of like, I don't know.
I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like they kind of got, I don't know. I think there was it was a it's not necessarily that they were better fighters in that instance. It's that they had the element of surprise. You know what I mean? Because even a worse fighter can beat a stronger fighter if they didn't see it
No,
coming.
and I get that, you know, and it
So
was like an ambush type thing, but
mhm.
I don't know. It's
And
just,
notice that a lot of these people had to go down with the ship, like the lady who was pounding on the sand. It's
yeah,
like, well, we're all gonna get eaten by sandworms now.
yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of them had to die along with other people.
Like
You
I
know what I
said, I
mean?
think it just kind of devalued the Sardaukar
Uh huh.
from just like a movie standpoint. Like
Yeah.
it devalued them, and then like when Jason Momoa took out 20, it just kind of seemed like a cheesy
Yeah.
action scene at that point. You know what I mean? I wasn't
Uh
like,
huh.
dang, I can't believe he just took out 20. I'm like, well, I can definitely believe it because it just happened another scene ago. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I don't know. It's that sort of thing. Like you need and like I said, this isn't an issue with Dune. This isn't a point against Dune. A lot of movies do this. This is just something I have an issue with movies in general and shows in general. Like I just like in shows when one person's outnumbered by three people. If a show it makes you actually fear for that person, like they've done their job, you know, making the
Mhm.
action realistic. But when it's just like, oh, no, 20 Sardaukars are coming against Jason Momoa, should have brought 30. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like, it kind of devalues the action for me personally. Like,
I suppose, but I feel like yeah, I agree. I can see that, I should say, but the reason they had him against that many people is just to show, like, I feel like eventually he was trying to show they wanted to put him out in a blaze of glory, right? And they also wanted to show how hopeless it feels because at a certain point, you're like, come on, this is too much. Stop sending in guys.
well,
You know what I
clearly,
mean?
but another route they could have went is have him take out a few, but then like, I don't know, just make, I don't know.
No,
It
I know what you're
just,
saying though. I do agree with what you're saying.
I don't think that doing
I
what they
feel
did served the movie in any way except to give Jason Momoa a badass scene as he dies, which is fine,
yeah.
but you better not bring in Sardaukar later in the movie and expect me to be afraid. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Seriously, I like don't expect these Sardaukar to be seen as
Yeah,
badasses
because
anymore.
clearly numbers isn't the issue, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
So
even if
it's
there was
like,
a whole force of them, you're like, you can take them out. Just.
yeah, so
Um,
and that's just what I'm saying. It's like don't expect
yeah,
me to be afraid of these, you know, peons in the future.
yeah. This is like a whole dang group of them show up, be like, okay, well, I'll take out this 20, you take out that 20, and then you take out those 50, and I think we should be good.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but I do think that, like, I always hated in movies when someone's just like, um, guys, go ahead, I'll hold them off, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, they die instantly, and you're like, well, you didn't really do too much, did you? You know what I mean? Like, you could have came with us at
Right.
that point, and so I think that us at the same time they kind of got themselves in a writer hole where it's just like, well, he's got to the attack long enough, so then they kind of seem like it gave him some time. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
then I feel like he still could have went with them because they wasted time with Paul going like, no, get back over here, no, don't leave us, no, you know what I mean? No, you're our buddy, you're our friend, we love you. don't do this. It's like, dude, you're wasting the time I'm buying you. I could have went with you at this point.
Right.
So I've always hated that in movies. But again, time works differently when it comes to movie dialogue.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
true. It's true. But
they're like, Duncan, no, don't leave us, Duncan, come back. It's like, how about you use your voice thing and tell him to come over here, and don't do that, and they all can leave together.
yeah.
So
Well, I know we spent a lot of time, or at least I spent a lot of time, kind of like about my gripes with the movie. But honestly, that's because we just like talking about the gripes we had with things.
Yeah.
But all in all,
Yeah.
I honestly think like the story was good, plot was good, visuals were great, acting was superb, characters were good. I don't know if I said good, but it's like I honestly everything was good about this movie. I'm just nitpicking some of the things.
Except for the last hour we complained, it was good. No, I'm kidding. No, well, and the thing is, and my gripe with the movie isn't necessarily that movie in general, but movies, in general, because there's a certain things that movies do, that all movies do, and you kind of see those, and then you're like, they could have done that better. I wish they did that differently, as opposed to being like every other movie, But I think overall, like I said, this movie is enjoyable with the second watch. I complain about all the movies. I don't like any movies really, and this movie was enjoyable. And again, it could have been more enjoyable because I watched it with friends and we could comment and make jokes.
Yeah, that always makes it better.
So I have to watch.
I think the big thing, like I said, is I think all of these gripes are just here because they tried to cram a huge book into a 2.5-hour movie. And they should have just made it into a series and give some of these plot elements time to breathe. And
now, did you see the 1984 movie?
I have not. I heard it's a cult classic in the sense that it's terrible, but it's so bad that it's like fun to watch, and it's kind of become, like I said, a cult classic to some people. But that's all I really know about it.
Okay, I haven't seen that either. I haven't seen it. I haven't read the book. The closest I got was playing the board game, which I enjoyed. I recommend playing the board game.
The board game was great. Honestly, the board game helped me remember a ton of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because
in the board game, when you play it, the board game comes with still suits you have to wear, and so when we're sweating playing the game, we get to drink our own liquids.
No peeing. No peeing unless you're ready to drink.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, yeah. But it was a good game. But again, the designs of a lot of the stuff too was really good. Like with the still suits and the helicopters, and even like the sand, the spice collector, the giant machine spice thing. I think it was a really cool visuals.
Yeah, the design on everything was really good, and what are those weird helicopter things, like the ornithopters or whatever? They got these weird like dragonfly helicopter jet type things that were really cool. Yeah. The design on everything I thought was really good. Interesting. So, yeah. All right. Well, that'll be it for today. Any last words?
No, no, yeah.